couple of days ago, news dropped that Exo Kitty has been renewed for a third season, which your girl is so excited and relieved you all. I mean, Netflix, as we know, has a terrible track record. What with them cancelling shows all willy-nilly and that absolute bubblegum enjoyment of Exo Kitty for me is one that I keep coming back to without fail. Because what can I say? The Anna Cathcart-led drama has held my heart in its pretty, soft, infinitely happy hands since its debut. Now, I've said it before on my channel, but it bears repeating. The To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy is one of my absolutely favorite YA contemporary series. I love it. Lara Jean Song Covey will always be bae, and although John Ambrose held me in a chokehold for the longest time, Peter Kavinsky won out in the end for me. And this situation repeated itself when the movie adaptation dropped back in 2018. God, it's been 7 years already? What even is time? Anyway, back to my point. I have been in love with the Song Covey girls since I first met them in the pages of a book, and I love them still. And the thing with the story, with any of the stories that Jenny Ahn, writer of the trilogy, mind you, has created, is that at the heart of the story would always exist a love triangle. It's her bread and butter. It's what pays her bills, and she's so damn good at making us root for all the love interests and the second leads that I know her bills are getting paid on time. And that is why I know that what I'm about to say might be controversial as hell, but hear me out. What if at the end of Exo Kitty, and we might probably be wrapping the story up with season 3, considering that it's Kitty's senior year at KISS, after which they would all probably be graduating and moving on in the world. Which means that this year, this season, and how the story ends matters. And I posit, please note that this is me just theorizing, no need to come for my head, and just wait for me to explain, please. But I do posit that Exo Kitty will end with Kitty Song Covey ending up with no one. Now that I've successfully shocked you into staring at me with that, this girl has lost her damn mind stare. Hear me out. I know Exo Kitty, like To All the Boys I've Loved Before, seems predicated on the story of Kitty finding love and, just like her sister, having to choose one of the two great loves that are available to her. In this case, the choice between Yuri and Minho. Technically, it's more, since Lara Jean did write to multiple boys. Just when the story narrowed it down, it was a toss-up between Peter Kavinsky and John Ambrose, and it's the same with Kitty. Sure, we started the series with her transferring to KISS for a chance to reunite with Day, her boyfriend who she's been pen pals with since the start of the relationship. But the season 1 finale put an end to that push and pull quick and firmed up our contenders to just 2, Yuri and Minho. And we entered season 2 with the question of who exactly will be Kitty's endgame, in a question reminiscent of those of us who read or watched Lara Jean's relationship develop. And just like it took Lara Jean 3 books or 3 movies to be absolutely completely sure in her choice, the same will most likely happen with Kitty. Which is another reason why I think that the story will wrap up in its 3rd season. The essence of Jenny Ann's stories do believe and live by the rule of 3 after all. And although a part of me knows that it's all wishful thinking and that Exo Kitty would mostly end with Kitty making a final choice, a part of me wonders if there's a chance the show could consider another route instead. Because at that core of their stories, To All the Boys I've Loved Before and Exo Kitty are about the Song Covey girls going on different journeys. It was always clear that Lara Jean's journey was about stepping out of her comfort zone and getting to really experience high school life instead of shutting herself in her little world and the comfort and safety present within it. And this, by extension, spilled over into her relationship with Peter, through which she was able to see so much of their school and get to be really familiar with their classmates. Compare that with Kitty. At the very start of the show, Kitty starts by making her points. She wants to travel to Seoul in order to fulfill two goals. The first is, of course, to be with Day because she's ready to move from a long distance relationship to a much shorter one. The second is to learn more about her mother, and to do so, she believes that going to the same school as her mother and returning to her mother's home country is the right way to do that. Now, Kitty's first goal was accomplished in the first season. She did reunite with her boyfriend, but unfortunately discovered that first loves aren't as long lasting as she's always thought, and due to certain circumstances, she realizes that she's falling for someone else and doesn't have Day in her heart anymore. It's heartbreaking today, yes, but Kitty is the star of the show and this is her story. And in this way, her first reason for going to Kiss is completed. Her second reason for going to Kiss, however, still exists, which is to learn more about her mother, who, due to the fact that she's the youngest of her sibling, Kitty never really got the chance to know since their mother died young. And this is the story that we start to explore in season 1, but fully come full circle on in season 2, when we discover that her mother was trying to reunite Kitty's grandmother with her grandmother's estranged sister. A reunion that had been planned and would have been fulfilled had Kitty's mother not died without being able to do so. Kitty, however, together with her cousin and a special guest appearance by the ever gorgeous Janelle Parrish, my Mona, who of course appears in a role as the eldest son Covey girl, Margot. And so season 2 concludes with their family reunited, stronger than ever, and the scars of her grandmother's separation from her sister having been healed. Which then means that we are left with Kitty's third reason for going to Kiss. Which I'm sure if you watched the show and remember the scene from episode 1, season 1, it's probably confusing you because Kitty only highlighted in her PowerPoint presentation to her dad to convince her to let her go to Kiss, she only highlighted 2 reasons: to be with her boyfriend and to learn more about her mother. But see, as Kitty makes her way over to Seoul and Kiss, she does have the thought that she addresses to her mom in her thoughts. She tells her about her desire to learn more about her, to see how she made a life for herself and discover who her mother was at Kiss, which of course is also tied to her finding out that her mother and Yuri's mother were best friends, i.e. Kitty's mom had a whole other life at school outside of just being her wife and a mother. But Kitty also had the thought that, and she tells us, the audience, that she wants to learn who her mother was at Kiss, and also stated that she wants to do the same for herself. She wants to learn and discover who she is and can be whilst at Kiss. XO Kitty at its core is a story about Kitty learning who she is. That's what we are meant to see unravel through the seasons. It's her learning about relationships, how messy they can be, and how her own heart can want so many things, some of which could lead to her breaking the heart of someone who, up until that point, she'd always loved. It's her realizing that she's bi, that she finds Yuri breathtaking and can't get Minho out of her head. It's her learning about Korean culture and holidays and getting to celebrate it whilst in Seoul, which brings her a step closer to her mother, but also her own identity as being half Korean. It's also her learning that even the most good-natured thoughts can lead to pain for others, especially when her feelings and emotions get involved, as we see with the catastrophic mess that was her and Yuri's kiss, leading to Juliana breaking up with Yuri, which just made everything even more complicated. XO Kitty does have relationships driving a large part of the story. I am not going to disagree with that. But ultimately, at the core of it, for me, it's a show about Kitty growing up and feeling all the growing pains and the mess it leaves in its wake. And because ultimately Kitty is at Kiss to find herself, it makes me wonder if that might not influence how the story ends. Kitty would ultimately have to return back home, and we have no inkling whether Minho or Yuri would be relocating to the US at the end of the season. There has been no inkling in the show so far that that's a possibility that either of them are considering. And so, what this means for me is that should Kitty get with either of them, she might be stuck once again in a long distance relationship with a partner who isn't in close proximity to her. We'll be back to square one. And it doesn't make sense for me personally for the show to have a full circle moment in that regard. But most importantly, because Kitty is more than just whoever she's in a relationship with. Now, I mentioned in my By Erasure video that a lot of the fandom expressed their dissatisfaction with the latest season because we ended season 1 with Kitty realizing her interest in Yuri. And so the expectation was that season 2 would have her exploring that, since prior to that, both we, the audience, and Kitty thought herself straight. However, Yuri was in a relationship with Juliana, and although Pravina was right there, Kitty was stuck in this weird limbo where she was in love with Yuri, who was in love with her own girlfriend and trying to make their own relationship work. And unfortunately, things came crashing down. Kitty became the other woman who Yuri sort of cheated on Juliana with, which led to the messy end result of Juliana breaking up with Yuri, Yuri not ending up with Kitty and choosing instead to treat Kitty like she wasn't there, and Kitty resumes bonding with Minho till we get to the end of the season where it's hinted that there could be more Kitty Minho in the future. Now, I've said it before, but I am team Pravina in this house. I love her. She's hot as hell, and I would give anything for Sasha Bashin to call me maybe. But Kitty fumbled Pravina, and I understood why Pravina didn't want to be caught in that mess. Although I'm not gonna lie, it was such a realistic depiction of the messy sapphic relationships I know, and I am not proud to say I have been a part of in real life, that I personally felt that the season did really capture that messiness, the uncertainty, the figuring things out part of being a young bisexual woman. That was Kitty Song Covey's story. But a large number of the audience didn't like that. They need her to end up with Yuri to affirm her bisexuality. Like, her being with Minho negates that by virtue of their relationship being et passing. But like I said in that By Erasure video, Kitty is bi. Whether or not she ends up in a relationship with a man or a woman at the end of the season. And just in case the writing gods listen to my prayers, Kitty Song Covey is still bi if she ends up with no one. Because ultimately, her story is about her discovering herself and finding herself in her years abroad. And we've been able to see that through the show. And I personally would love it if the show ends in that open-ended way of Kitty graduating from Kiss and walking into the sunset with strong friendships she cultivated in her years at school, exes she's happily moved on from, a sexuality she's much more comfortable in, and the possibility of a future that is bright because of her unshaken belief and understanding of herself brought on by her experiences at Kiss. But I know this is all wishful thinking. Jenny Han will mostly push for them to make a choice, and right now, I'm leaning more to Minho. Just because I think any chance of a relationship between Yuri and Kitty now, based off of how Yuri's relationship with Juliana ended, will just be messy. And even though it would be a realistic portrayal of sapphic relationships and how we tend to orbit around one another, I want more and better for my girl. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments. If you've watched this far in the video and haven't hit the like button yet, please consider doing so. Share this video if you want to. Support me on Patreon if you can. And until tomorrow's video, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.